Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushua by Shem Rakakodah. Shalom to the 144,000, the rest of the elect out there. Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, Only Stupid and Gullible People Believe That There Is a Hell. And when I say hell, I'm talking about a spiritual place where after you die, your spirit, your soul, goes into a place of torment where you're engulfed in flames in the spirit forever and ever and ever and ever. So this right here, you see this picture right here. And besides, this is Luke 16:26. And this is the story, which is this is a parable, all right? And only stupid people will believe that this is an actual account. Luke, Abraham, Lazarus, and the rich man. Well, this is nothing more than a parable. It says, and the parable is going into, now back then, 2,000 years ago, it was going into the jakes that were high up and the jakes that didn't have anything, and how that could be changed. Like, for example, Capernaum, which is a seacoast city of Galilee, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Galilee. We were talking about it yesterday on the live. And Galilee was a city that they were doing very well. Just like, give you an example, the Black Wall Street, those were a bunch of jakes that were doing very well. They were doing better than jakes around the country. They had doctors, lawyers, they had businesses. They were self-sufficient. They didn't need Esau. And then you go into the story. I might even watch a video on it. I might even put in Black Wall Street, maybe on YouTube, and a short story come up about it. But we know the main, the premise of the story is it was jakes that were doing very well. And it was over a so-called black man in an elevator. Back in the day, you had elevator operators. Like the elevators that we go in, you press a button. Back then, you had elevator operators. A guy would stand there with a suit on and a hat, and he would open the gates, let you in, and then he would hit a lever and it would go up and go down or whatever. Elevators first came about when they built tall buildings, and they had a cargo elevator. And so they said, we're going to make passenger elevators. And a lot of people in the beginning were afraid to go on elevators. They said, no, I'm taking the steps. But you had the skyscrapers. So you had 50 floors. So you ain't going to walk at 50 floors. So people slowly began to trust the fact that you can take elevators, which, by the way, elevators were only used for cargo. All right? So anyway, the story goes, the quick story, the short story is, there was a elevator operator in Black Wall Street. There was an Edomite chick that came in there, and the elevator kind of jumped, and I believe either the elevator operator, which was Jake, bumped into the Edomite woman or whatever, and it turned into, this black man assaulted and attempted to rape, this Edomite woman. So it got around, and the Edomite said, we're going to get this nigga. And then that turned into whether they locked him up, killed him, or hung him, whatever, because they quick to hang you. They'll judge you, he did it. All we got to do is hear an accusation that he did it, and they would hang you. And a lot of these jakes were hanged for raping white women, but these women were freely giving it up to these men. See, the Edomite women always had a thing for Jake men. That goes into slavery. The slave master's wife, when the slave master would go out of town, she would lay with the slave man, but force him, say, if you don't, lay with me, I'll tell the master when he come back that you raped me. And the only way the slave master would find out if she was sleeping around is if the baby came out dark. So I would gather that the Edomite slave mistress of the plantation would try her best to get light-skinned men and hope that if she got pregnant, the baby, back then they didn't have abortions back then, and hope the baby come out looking more white, and the slave master would accept the fact that that's his son or his daughter, but in actuality that's an Israelite. So you had Israelites that came up in power that looked like Edomites, but they were actually Israelites. You had the madams. You had certain slave masters that fell in love with this slave black woman, an Israelite woman, and they would marry them, and then they would be given the status as an actual wife, so they're no longer slaves. So you had Jake's slave masters that actually had Jake's slaves. You know, they showed you that in the movie. In all the slave movies, that's the only movie that they showed where they had madams, which was former slave black women that became mistresses of the house, or masters in a feminine sense. When they went to the other plantation, the main character and the woman that picked all that cotton, they went to the madam's house, and she was drinking a mint julep, talking shit, dressed in the finest of clothes on the porch, you know. So they don't show you that in them slave movies, man. There was a lot of mixing in slave. Like I said, a lot of these slave masters that look like Edomites, a lot of them taskmasters that were Irish, a lot of them were Jake. You know? So there was a lot of Edomites actually going into slavery. But anyway, let me get back into this. So anyway, the story behind the Black Wall Street thing was in Oklahoma, where they got reparations. You know, they got the equivalent of 40 acres and 2 mules, or whatever they got it. And what they did was they capitalized on that money that they got. But like I said, I got to go back into the story to get the full story. I'm just going by memory of reading certain things. And they turned it around, and they had their children go to the best schools and become doctors and lawyers and business people. There's this one Edomite that has slaves. I forget where it was in America, and he believed in teaching his slaves how to read and write and to get educated, because this Edomite slave master wanted his slaves to come up in the world. And that plantation, when he died, he gave it over to his slaves, and they became like masters of the plantation. And then one of the descendants of one of them former slaves actually became the mayor of that particular city. I forget the place. If anybody knows, you can drop it, give it to me, or whatever. But anyway, there was a lot of mixing going on in during the time of slavery. And you got a lot of people that you see that I'm gonna get back into the main story that look like Edomites, but could be actually Jakes, and Jakes are actually Edomites. So you really don't know. You have an idea. But anyway, let me get back into the story. So that's just dealing with the rich man, the Lazarus, bring it up to date. The slave master would represent the rich man. Lazarus would represent the slave, and so forth and so on. That's why I used that whole story concerning Black Wall Street. But anyway, coming back to this. So it says, this is Luke 16:25. Because you got certain stupid people that teach other stupid people that there's an actual place. And these are Israelites. I'm not going to mention no names. And then you got guys that are in the leadership that don't correct the guy that teaches it. Guy just gets up, you know what, there's a thing called hell. We're going to start teaching that. And the rest of them zombies, they get lockstep. Yep, that's right. There's a hell. There's a hell. If he gets up, the Easter Bunny is in the kingdom of heaven. Them zombies are, yep, the Easter Bunny's in the kingdom of heaven. We got icons on it. Anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. It says, and besides, Luke 16:26. So if there is an actual hell, you will be able to see your family, your loved ones on this side. You will be able to see them burning forever. When you're in this heavenly, this hell is in the spiritual realm, heaven is in the spiritual realm, but heaven will be on earth. As it is in heaven, so shall it be on earth. The Lord's Prayer. So there's going to be a physical kingdom on the earth and a spiritual kingdom in the heavens, a heavenly kingdom in the heavens, which when you die, you go to that paradise in the sky, so to speak. So it says, and besides all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf. That's a gulf. Fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Luke 16:26, King James Version. So they're showing you a picture. So this would be the kingdom of heaven. This is paradise. The sun, the grass, greenery, mountains, fresh water, sweet water. And then you got over here, you got people over here burning. So you can be in the kingdom enjoying yourself, and your grandmother might roll up in a wheelchair on fire, engulfed in flames, talking about, son, put a good word in for me, Lord, son, Jesus, my grandson, put a good word in for me. I should have listened to your black ass back in the day. But now I'm burning in this flame. At least dip your hand in that lake right there, and let me go suck on your finger so I can get some. You can't get no relief if you're engulfed in flames. Like I said, Luke the 16th chapter, hell is a parable. It's talking about how certain people are going to be on top, and those people that are going to be on top that didn't show any love to the people on the bottom, y'all going to be on the bottom, and we're going to be on top. So now the rich man and Lazarus refers to who? Esau would be the rich man, and Lazarus will be the Israelites on the bottom. And you can see the transfer of wealth, let's say. That's also in the Apocrypha. That's also in the scriptures. It says translated from one. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and bring that up. Bear me for a minute. I know it's in Ecclesiasticus. It might be in the 10th verse, but let me do it this way. Let's try lated. We can deal with translate or translated. Let's see what comes up. Okay, this is the scriptures. Let's go to the Apocrypha. Okay, I was right. Ecclesiastes 10, verse 8. So it says, because of unrighteous dealings, the rich man, injuries and riches gotten by deceit, everything that Esau got is by deceit, by the sword. The kingdom, which this is Esau's kingdom, is translated, look that word up, from one people to another. So what comes with a kingdom? Riches, right? Power seat. So this is slowly happening now. You got jakes that are lawyers, doctors that are doing good. You got high up jakes in the world, right? So that's the main precept that I wanted. And I'm going to read part of this, not the whole thing. Ecclesiasticus 1:1, the prologue of the wisdom of the word Jesus is Yahushua or Joshua, the son of Sirach. Ecclesiasticus is also known as the book of Sirach. Okay, this is a good example right here. Another precept. Edition of Esther 16 and 14. For For by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of Persia to the Macedonians. So what does it mean, the translation? Translate, it means to go from one kingdom falling and a new kingdom. Anytime a kingdom falls, a new kingdom comes up. So the Moabites, the BRICS nations, the Moabites, Gog and Magog, they think they're going to be the next rulers. The Ishmaelites think they're going to be the next rulers. No, the Israelites are going to be the next rulers. So the kingdom is going to be translated from the Edomite kingdom to the kingdom of the Most High, which will be managed by the Israelites. So remember the scripture. Let me read again. Editions of Esther 16 and 14. It says, for by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians, meaning from the Persians to the Greeks. Formerly the Medo-Persian Empire. When the Persian Empire was taken down by the Greeks, and the key guy was Philip of Macedonia, which had a son named Alexander the Greek. And it was his son that the Most High put the spirit on him to take down the Persians. That's what the movie The 300 was all about. Let me go right here. Let me do it this way. I'm sorry. Let me do it this way. Nope, I don't want that. Okay, let's do this. Wherefore let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words. What does that mean? And that refers to the whole book, the scriptures. There's certain words where they seem to come short of the meaning. That's why you have to go back. If it's in the Old Testament, you got to go back to the Hebrew, and then in the New Testament, you got to go to the Greek. In the Book of Daniel, you got to go back to the Babylonian language, which is also known as Syriac, or Aramaic, which Aram came from Aram. Aram was a Hebrew. It says, which we have labored to interpret. What does it mean to interpret? This is why it's important for you. If you call yourself knowing, understanding the scriptures, certain words you have to say, okay, that's in the Old Testament. We don't fully understand this English word here. Let's go back to the actual Hebrew. I can give you plenty of examples on that. Same thing goes with the New Testament and the Greek. So if you got people saying, just deal with the English, there's nothing deeper, but run away from that person. That person's not a teacher. It says which, so I got the word. Okay, which we have labored to interpret. When you have somebody from Brazil, somebody from America interviewing a Brazilian guy that can't speak English, who's always there? There's a next guy there. That's a guy interpreter. What is an interpreter? A guy that knows both English and Portuguese. So the one guy that speaks English talked to the guy that speaks two languages, and he says he translated to the guy that speaks Portuguese, and the Portuguese guy's response goes back to the middleman, and the middleman translated for the English. That's simply what it means. That's a simple form of interpreting something. It says, so you can't interpret the scriptures fully, 100%, if you don't go back to the actual word, which is, the word is called etymology. It says, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and then translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself. And the prophets, right? And the prophets. And the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. So to get the full understanding of the scriptures, sometimes you have to go into the actual word that is originally written in. That's all I'm going to say on that. But let me come back over here. So anybody that goes into Luke chapter 16 and they read about hell and then they say, see, there's an actual place called hell. You better get right with the Most High. Better keep them laws or you're going to wind up in hell. Okay, so guess what? Your grandmother's not going to make it. Your grandfather's not going to make it. Your mother's not going to make it. Your father's not going to make it. Your cousin, your old girl that you love so much, even your children, they're not going to make it. So guess what? You're going to see them. You're going to be in the kingdom enjoying yourself, and they're going to be yelling at you. You're going to be eating a sandwich, and you're saying, Lord, Lord, do something, put in a good word. Your grandmother, put in a good word for me, son. Put it, I use it as a joke. But see, when you look at this, when you open your eyes to what the scriptures are saying, and you have influences from when you was a Roman Catholic or a Christian, that seeps in, that seeps in, and then you mix the gospel with a bunch of lies. In closing, I just want to say that there's no such thing as a spiritual hell. None of us will go to hell and burn forever, especially Israelites. All Israel shall be saved. Romans 11:25 and 26, Isaiah 14:1 and 2, the whole Romans chapter 9, the whole chapter. There's many scriptures on how only Israel is going to be saved, and that's talking about all Israel. Yahushua told Peter, and I believe that was Matthew 19:27. He said, you're going to get, if you lose your family in not too many words, you're going to get them back 100-fold. So if you have a son that falls off, or a daughter that falls off, or your mother never received it, you're going to get them back in the kingdom, even if they die over here. Now, what they are going to suffer, what they're going to suffer is the missiles destroying them, setting them on fire. But that's going to be a quick thing. They'll feel the fire, and their bodies go in the spiritual realm. Then they come back as newborn babies. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. So like I said, use your brain, use your head for something other than a hat rack. There's no such thing as an eternal hell. With that, I'm going to say shalom.